Jai Hind and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. They say Ukraine war has changed its phase. This is another set or the another type of action which is taking place in that entire country. Russia has realigned itself. Ukraine is also realigning itself, of course. But what is happening? What is now the objective? What is the game that the Russians are trying to play, and how are the Ukrainians going to deal with this entire blow? To discuss this, I have with me Lieutenant General Ravi Shankar to talk about the next phase of the Russia-Ukraine war. So, interesting times. Things have changed on the ground quite a bit.
Yeah, the whole weight of the offensive has shifted. Earlier, one felt that the weight of the offensive was on Kiev and in the south. Having got hold of some areas north of Crimea, around Kherson and Mariupol, and having reduced Mariupol to almost no resistance, the Russians have built a land bridge between Crimea and the Donbas areas. Now they want to extend further to the east, or rather to the west, and capture as much territory as they want. So it's a new phase with a new weight altogether. And when the Russians withdrew from Kiev, they must have withdrawn from Kiev, and they have swung around to the east. They've reinforced and consolidated whatever they gained in the east, right? And they've concentrated the forces in the east. Now, important in this is that when Kiev people withdrew from the Kiev, the Ukrainians have gone and occupied all those areas, which means that the Ukrainians are spread out. Earlier, the Ukrainians were concentrated. Now they're spread out. They can't vacate the areas which they've retaken from north of Kiev. Otherwise, Belarus troops will come down. So the Ukrainians are spread out thin, and the Russians are concentrated. Right now, if we can get to a map or something like that, I can explain the whole story, and then we can have a discussion.
Certainly, sir. As a matter of fact, just one thing, a thought came to me when you said that Ukrainians are now spread thin and the Russians are now concentrating. The first phase, if I may put it that way, is the first 2 months of the war. It was completely the opposite, where the Ukrainians were
Yes.
concentrated and the Russians
Yeah,
were
Ukraine.
wide
Yeah,
front.
I agree with you. Ukrainians were fighting on inner lines. The Russians are fighting on outer lines. And today you find it has changed. The Ukrainians are now stretched, and the Russians are concentrated.
Let's get to the map, sir.
Get to the map, and I'll explain this to you. I'll explain this phenomenon to you first. Yeah, if you look at it, earlier the Russians were coming down from the north, from Kiev, and then also from the south and the east. Okay, and the Ukrainians were in the center and fending them off. Now, what has happened is the Ukrainians are spread to the north, right? Also, whereas the Russians have withdrawn from the Kiev area, they're very light in the area between Kharkiv and Izium, and their concentration is between Izium and Mariupol. Okay, right? It is learned that they captured Izium. Izium is a focal point of this area, and they have concentrated a lot of force around Izium, right? In the south, they had already captured this area between Melitopol and Mariupol. Mariupol is now almost reduced with hardly any resistance there except in the steel plant. So all these forces here are now concentrated. What will they now try to do? If you see the area between Donetsk, which is north of Mariupol, and where the smallest arrow is on the left, to the arrow on the right, on the top from Izium, the set of arrows, these small arrows. If you see, that whole thing forms like a horseshoe. The Ukrainians are spread along the inner side of this horseshoe, right? And the Russians are confronting them. That's fine. But more importantly, the Russians are concentrated at the end of the horseshoe at Izium and in the area north of, in the line between Mariupol and Donetsk. As a result, if from Izium the Russians fan out, as shown in those three arrows, one towards Dnipro, one towards Kramatorsk, and one towards Severodonetsk. And from the south also they developed offensives. say from the area of Donetsk and further to the west, as shown, they'll slowly start encircling Ukrainian troops locally. These might be small battles fought at battalion and company and squadron level, but they'll start the moment they get a puncher, they can go behind and start wrapping up. Now, from whatever one has learned, this is what apparently the Russians are trying. Okay, but so far that it doesn't seem as if they've got a breakthrough. Okay, that's one. Ideally speaking, with the kind of armor and all which Russia has to just advance on a broad front and widen out. But that they're not able to do because of the Drapustita factor. I don't think the thaw has hardened completely. The ground I don't think is fully passable for armored vehicles, and they're not able to move. So all the fighting is still track bound and road bound, and that is why the Russians probably are finding it difficult to get through the Ukrainians. But then the way I look at it, it's been now 5 days since this offensive has started, and there's a hell of a lot of shelling. There are a hell of a lot of artillery and missile strikes in the rear. Russians are carrying out a methodical degradation and demilitarization of Ukrainian military assets and other assets, right? And they are also attacking on multiple points. So it's a matter of time that they'll get a breakthrough. The moment they get a breakthrough, then Ukrainians are in trouble.
I think that's one of the reasons why the demand for heavy weaponry has gone up quite a bit, sir. I mean,
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think Ukraine has got that much heavy weaponry. That's why they're seeking help from USA, which seems to be giving something. In
sir,
fact, what the Prime Minister of UK, Boris Johnson, said here in Delhi, he said this. He said it seems like Russia will eventually win. I'm not saying it. A Prime Minister of UK is saying it.
they fought bravely, but eventually the overwhelming force of the Russians is obviously going to be a dominating factor. So
Yeah,
let me ask you this, since we've got the map up. Dnipro is something that we see, Zaporozhye, we also see Kharkiv. Uh,
yeah.
Not much movement has been reported in the past few days in Kharkiv as well, but this Izum area has been having some shelling, fighting, and some action has been reported in this area. So what you're saying is actually being seen on the ground as well. Uh, as an objective, what do you think that the Russians would want to do before they come down to a point where the fighting would somewhat come to a stop? Is it Dnipro or?
Look, if you see that the original aim was to get hold of the entire area of Donbas,
Hmm,
that is Donetsk and Luhansk. And if you see in this map, this is a New York Times map, which I overlaid arrows with. Not New York Times, some other thing, right? I'm sorry. If you see that light gray portion is the actual Donetsk and Luhansk area, the Donbass area,
hmm,
and actually Zaporozhye and Dnipro are a little outside that.
yes.
Notwithstanding that, the Russians will aim to get the whole lot. If they get a breakthrough, they'll start wrapping up. But they have to get that breakthrough, and they have to have that mentality to start wrapping up Ukrainians from the rear. This frontal attacks will not pay. Will only be a slogging match where there'll be a lot of losses, right? And will delay the process. You have to do outflanking moves, which the Russians, mind you, used to do in Second World War. And it is surprising to me that they have not done it like the way historically the Soviet army used to do, right? Anyway, that's a different story. So they'll get hold of this area, and they've already said that they'll keep this area. They'll not return the area to Ukraine. And they also said that in this area they'll hold a referendum as to what should be done with this area. The people of this area will decide whether to be part of Russia, to be independent, or part of Ukraine with some autonomy. But that's a later day story. I mean, in fact, there are the three options. But what will happen, and what will be engineered is a later day story. Okay, we'll see. So let us see. But what one can see is that if Russia doesn't intend to return all this land to Ukraine, we are looking at impending breakdown of Ukraine.
That's the
Right?
future. Hmm.
The map of Ukraine is going to change. That I'm very sure. How it will change, what will be the final thing, we'll see.
One of the few regions in the world after 1947 or 1950s, as a matter of fact, where the map is going to change. Israel, India, Indian subcontinent, Ukraine.
Yeah, I
I mean,
I wouldn't totally agree with it, because in the East European countries, Serbia, Croatia, all these also came up in this manner only, or a result of fighting and things like that. But
mm,
this is a different story where
yes, sir.
a proper, war is
War. Yeah,
going through,
exactly.
and you're creating a new territory after invasion, something like what we've done in Bangladesh. But
Bangladesh.
that,
That's exactly what I meant, sir. Yes, sir.
yeah, but the circumstances are different totally.
Absolutely, yes, sir. So the
Yeah.
Russian general yesterday came out and also said that he would want to, deprive Ukraine the access to the Black Sea and control the entire southern Ukraine as well. Is that a threat or is that something that you see as an objective?
Look, if that is to be done, yes, they have to take Odisha. They have
Hmm.
to capture Odisha, right? And they are still a little distance away from capturing Odisha, because they have to first get hold of Mykolaiv and then get to Odisha. They have not done that, and there are no reports of any massing of forces that side and things like that for that to happen.
So just get
Right?
back to our
Yeah. So let us see whether Russia can eventually do that, right?
which
And
it's a
and
tall
that's going
ask,
to
so
take
there's no
time.
question.
No, it's not a. I wouldn't say it's a tall ask if you have the resources
Hmm.
and you have the right tactics. At this point of time, the way this war has gone along and it has progressed, I have my doubts. And if their ultimate aim is Odessa, this is going to be a long drawn war, and people are still going to start forgetting about it.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that we are seeing right now as well. The interest level in the entire conflict is kind of
Yeah, yeah, is
slowly dying off because of
dying
various
off.
other
Yeah.
geopolitical factors which are emerging.
Yeah, the world is getting used to the fact that there's going to be conflict here, and let them continue with their conflict, and we'll get on with life.
So that's what Russians are planning to do. So let's talk about the Ukrainian side now. I mean, it's a tough ask for a country which has a small enough army in terms of if you compare it with Russia. Uh, they've been hit hard by heavy firepower. A lot of people believe that firepower is not the war-winning factor, but it may not be the war-winning factor, but it may be a huge damaging factor which results in a lot of destruction. So they're also not in a very great place. How do you see them today, sir? You mentioned they are thinned out. What else would you be?
See, well, let's look at it. Firepower will not be a battle winning factor. I mean, I will put it this way: it might not be spectacular,
Hmm,
but it's a huge influencer. It's going to win the
absolutely.
battle for you or
Hmm.
lose the battle for you. Okay, if it has to come to that. But the firepower alone won't do it. You need boots on ground, infantry and armor to actually go and capture territory. Firepower will create the conditions for you, right? That the Russians are falling short at this point of time. Okay. Now, as far as the Ukrainians are concerned, let's look at it. Let's look at it from a slight. Ukrainians are in a difficult position. There's no doubt. But let's look at it from a different angle altogether. What will it take to end the war?
Yeah, fair enough.
After all, the war has to end. Yeah. Yeah. One is that Ukraine gets completely destroyed, then the war has to end. But can Ukraine get destroyed completely? The Western Ukraine is still intact, and Russians are only targeting selected targets, military targets. They're not hitting all the infrastructure blindfoldedly. So, and to that extent, Ukraine will never get destroyed fully, and it will never succumb the way it is going. Okay, and NATO will not let it fall that easily or collapse. So that is out. So that Ukraine, complete defeat of Ukraine and destruction of Ukraine won't happen in a hurry. If it happens, it's at a great cost to Russia. So is that cost acceptable to Russia? So that way the war won't end. The second is that Russia is at it, and the cost for Russia becomes so high that it gives up, and NATO and allies through Ukraine bleed Russia. Okay, so uh, and then Russia gets defeated by saying, okay, we can't do anything more. Will that happen in a hurry? It's not likely to happen. That's not what. and sanctions also are not working on Russia. Okay. On the other hand, Russia is able to, weigh down heavily on Europe economically. So that's also a doubtful case. So it leaves the third option is you have to have a negotiated settlement. There's no other choice. Now, in a negotiated settlement, the way what you see on the TV and all, NATO and USA is giving weaponry to Ukraine to continue fighting. Heavy weaponry is getting in. So if we are giving heavy weaponry to Ukraine, when will this war end? When will the negotiated settlement take place? If you want a negotiated settlement, you don't supply more weapons, and then the president of a country doesn't come out and say we'll fight, we'll continue fighting like Zelensky has done. And there's no middle point. So you need a mediator from somewhere. Like I said earlier, Turkey is out of the equation.
Mm.
It tried and it is out. Israel is too small. China is unacceptable. It leaves only with India. There's no, and India has been making efforts. Our Prime Minister has spoken to both Mr. Putin and Mr. Zelensky. He's told this to Mr. Biden also. I think the Finnish Prime Minister also said that India should mediate. All this talk is going on, but is there any concrete proposal for mediation? And that's also not on the cards. So, but unless both, look, at the end of the day, no one is going to win this war.
Absolutely.
Everyone is going to lose. All three. And Ukraine will have lost the worst. So it's better to go for a negotiated settlement. Sense suggests go for a negotiated settlement. Now,
there would be a win factor somewhere small, as small as possible.
everyone can claim a victory.
Yeah. I mean,
right? Once you get into a negotiation, everyone will claim a victory, so be it.
it's a lose-lose scenario, but if you just, peel off the layers,
So
can be.
Someone will, they can claim a victory. That's about all. We
Yes.
did this, we did that. That's about all.
We made sure Russia could not take Kiev, and that narrative you
Those
will see building.
narratives will continue. So, in any case, how does it matter? I mean, whatever has to happen has happened. It's a useless victory. For whoever gets it, it's a useless victory.
Fair enough.
Right?
Let's talk about the weapons. Ukrainians have been, of course, desperately asking for weapons. There was a huge controversy about Germans providing them heavy weapons. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. It just kept on going on like a pendulum. The US has been providing some weapons. As a matter of fact, two packages of $800 billion each were announced with heavy weaponry. So, what are they sending across?
Look, in my opinion, all this has to be seen through, colored glasses. For the simple reason, one component, let me explain to you, then I'll get to the rest. One component of this weaponry is M777 guns.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, first and foremost, let's be clear, M777 guns are not being made in anywhere in the world except in India for India. The factory lines of M777 closed 3 years back, and a fresh one was set up in India to make M777 for India.
The spares.
So they are not new guns. They are not new guns. Now, about 2 years back, the US Marines started shedding the M777 guns. US Marines has about over 1,000, had about over 1,000 M777 guns. They started shedding. They also recognized they started shedding their light tanks and some heavy tanks also. The tank element has been shed out. So, in my view, these tanks and M777s which are shed by US Marines are now being given to Ukraine. These must be the oldest generation which have seen service fighting, and so they're not great weapons as weaponry goes. They're also being given ANTPQ 37. Okay. Now, they also would be very old, and this ANTPQ 37 is a very accurate weapon system, but it is bulky. So I don't know how effective it will be in that Rapustita conditions. It can't go off road, nothing. Right? It's an accurate weapon, but then again, they would be giving an older version. I know for sure because when we also have ANTPQ 37, we've been having it for the past 15 years. When they gave it to us, it was Mark III, which we got, whereas in the American forces, it was Mark 7. When I was quitting service, they had the Mark 10 of the AMTPQ in their services, and they were trying to offer us Mark 6, Mark 7. So these must be the old ones, then not the new ones. So the efficacy of this weapon package is suspect. Then you need training. You just can't. M777 is a totally different gun. You can't, it's just a light gun of 4 tons. Whereas all the Russian equipment or the Soviet era designs, which the Ukrainians and the Russians have, are those 15 to 20-ton monsters. Heavy. The logic of that gun and this gun is different. So you need to train crews. It's not easy. It takes us 3 to 4 months to train a unit for conversion from one equipment to the other. You don't use artillery just like that overnight or a tank just like that. Then there's the issue of ammunition. Does Ukraine have ammunition? How much ammunition will it have? Right? What? Because I remember the Russian caliber used to be 152. Right? They also have 155s, but that's not the standard thing. I don't know what Ukraine has at this point of time. So, do they have the ammunition to back this? Will uh, Russia give them the latest Excalibur bonus rounds? It's a very costly package. India has gone for limited number of this Excalibur bonus rounds.
Mm-hmm.
We have few. I mean, we have few. How many will USA give? And let me tell you, this 800 million is peanuts when I put all these 3, 4 capabilities together.
That's what I wanted to ask you, sir. In brass tacks, how many guns and
Look, again, from available,
information? Yeah,
information, open source information, they say they're going to give 5 units worth of M777s. That means 100 guns. Just see the difference. You fit 100 guns in, and some tanks and ammunition and an NTPQ-37 and some more in 800 million. There's something fishy. It's costed us nearly 4 times that or 5 times that to get hold of 145 M777s of the latest variety with our specs, with night vision and fully computerized and a range of 4,000 kilometers and all that. Not 4,000, 4 kilometers designation. Oh, I mean, we got the cutting edge technology of M777s, but because we wanted it that way. So, and it costed us. We paid for it. For 800 million, what will you get? Unless it's all second hand, otherwise lying as junk, they would have refurbished it, done something, and given it to Ukrainians.
or ex-Afghanistan.
Maybe Afghanistan. Look, all I'm trying to make is it's not new equipment. It is equipment which USA is not using, which is being given to Ukrainians as aid with a package, with a price tag on it.
I wish somewhere down the line, this. The funny thing is that the narrative that is being made, and I think you mentioned this once before in one of our talks as well. There's a meme going around saying that the Americans will fight Russia to the last Ukrainian. Uh,
Yeah.
it's a damn sad thing, but at the end of it, that's
Well,
what's happening.
that's what. See, that all this fuels the conflict. It doesn't end the conflict.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it will not give you an
Yeah,
end anyway.
there's no end. So where do we go? Well, let us see. That's why I said there's no end in this fight. How to end this conflict should be the more important question.
You spoke about the Russian
Even
Endgame,
even
sir.
the Russians are fixated. They just want to keep getting territory. And my way of looking at it is they are going into a place where the gains they get will get offset by the losses they suffer overall. They are bleeding themselves. NATO is not getting victory. Ukrainians are suffering. I've written about the fact that there's a there's a lose war
Yeah,
1 month back.
we've spoken about that, so yeah, I mean,
Yeah, my ideas don't change.
Coming finally, see, as I was saying, you spoke about the Russian thought of an end game, if I may, put it that way. So I may be wrong in putting that across, but I hope you get my message. But if you look at it from the other side, what end game can Ukraine hope for? I mean, they can keep begging around for equipment. They can be diplomatic visits, as we can see happening in the next week. But at the end of it, they're losing their country here.
Look, they've already lost it. I have a feeling that Zelensky almost threw in the towel in the first week of March, right? He's not been allowed to do so by NATO. He's not been allowed to go to a fully negotiated position because of NATO pressure. Either it's pressure or he's still under the uh, view that he might pull off a victory, and I mean, I don't know the psychology,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Uh, eh, and you might find, the way I look at it, the way Ukrainians are today probably thinking, they'll think, fine, we put up a fight. What are we getting? 12
Sometimes that
million
is
are
also
deep displaced, and the rest are, your economy is short, everything is short, all your industry is getting short and getting more by the day. Is Zelensky a great guy for us? They might throw him out. That might be the end state.
and,
They might, they look, the politics of this war are yet to play out in Russia, in Ukraine, and in USA.
oh yeah,
They
yeah.
say no, war is politics by other means, and politics is war by other means.
I'd like to share this. As
So
we were talking yesterday, sir, there's a brother and sister who I was chatting with online in Ukraine.
yeah,
Although they were very thankful for the West and their support and stuff like that, but they did mention to me one very simple thing. They said, if they care so much, why don't they come and fight for us?
no, they'll never do that. They'll
That
never
was
do that.
quite a telling question to me because, with all the hoopla in terms of the narratives, you also see these guys seeing through that narrative and saying, listen,
America was America was very clear from the beginning that they'll never fight. So why talk?
I think, sir, the next, obviously, this war is not coming to an end. And as you've also brought out that with, fixated Russia and boosted Ukraine, and mind you, we're not trying to take any sides here. It's a
Yeah,
situation
yeah, yeah.
analysis that we
It's
are
a
trying to
state of,
do.
it's a bare statement. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no that's the way things are happening.
Absolutely. So this is a situational analysis that we are trying to do to figure out what's actually happening there, and if is this which is affecting all of us. As a matter of fact, let's go to the petrol pump and you kind of realize how this war
Yeah,
is hitting us. So
yeah, yeah. Very soon your petrol has gone up, your palm oil will go up, food prices will go up, and all of us are getting affected.
absolutely, and with the with the scare of this new wave of COVID, things are going to get a little bad for us for the next
Yeah, it
couple of
is going to
months.
get bad. Yeah, I agree with you.
So, it is important that we understand what's happening in this entire thing. And thank you, sir, for bringing it out very, very clearly. Uh, it's a messed up affair, which I guess, if I may just say it very simply, it's an ego trouble, ego tussle between two
Hmm.
sides, and for anyone, for that
Yeah,
matter, to kind of come to a conclusion point. And I'll go back to the 1962 crisis. Sir, correct me if I'm wrong. Kennedy let the Russians have a face saver, and
I look. I think everyone is looking at it. That can I give the other chap a face saver at this point of time? I don't think NATO and USA are in a position to give Russia a face saver.
mm, they've gone too far ahead.
Or it's gone. Look, everyone. I have my own view is that everyone needs to exit with his own face saver.
Absolutely.
They have to make their own face savers. Forget giving others their face savers. Right. So that's where it is, and we're going to see more of this.
On that note, sir, till next time, till the battle actually opens up or it dies down, either ways, if I hope they come to some senses and actually stop this war, because at the end of it, no one gains, as Jan Shankar also very clearly brought out. It's going to be a lose-lose situation, and everybody is going to be peeling around the entire situation to find some slight sliver of victory, which is going to be worthless when we actually count what each side has gone through. Till next time for another discussion on this and many other subjects, sir. Jai Hind.
All right, Jai Hind. Thank you. Sir, this is